What's going on, guys? Eric coming back at you from the Nerd Cave. Today we are back at it with another Walkabout mini golf tips and tricks video. We'll be jumping back into the Nintendo DS or BS series on Wednesday, so stay tuned for that. We do have a collection overview coming, so it's going to be a great video. But thank you guys so much for tuning into the videos, for all the support on the DS or BS series. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into today's clips. So this shot is on hard on, I believe, Shangri-La. And you gotta kind of pop it up over to the side there and get just the right angle. It's honestly a harder shot than it looks like. It's real easy to end up inside that fire. The next shot here is a bit more simple, but it's just a bank shot. But I do believe I ended up getting this one in 2 total, so I was pretty happy with that. This one is one of my favorite trick shots. You can actually do this on easy and hard. There's a similar trick shot over the bank here with the flowers. So it's really kind of a cool trick shot, and it gets you almost all the way over to the hole when that should ultimately take you several strokes to get over there. I think it's like a par 4 or 5. So if you can get across there in 1 and get it in on the second one, great. This one takes forever to ride up this noodle, but if you get it in there just right and let it kind of ride up to the back, you'll see it roll out here in a second, and it just kind of rolls right down towards the hole. There is some chance that I've seen that it still does end up not going in and just kind of lands around the hole. That's one great thing about the physics in this game, is they are really accurate, so you do see realistic things happen. It's not always exactly the same every time. But if you get it just right, you can get it across and get it into the hole. And one more time for good measure. So there's my coffee during this one. Got Wendy's Frosty Chino, not a sponsor. It is good though. From like 3 hours ago. Yep. This one is just a little more difficult than it looks, kind of popping it up over that angle and getting into the hole. This is another one we were playing on hard, so happy with that one. I think I got it in 2. This is an interesting bounce shot kind of across this rock. It is possible to get a hole-in-one on this hole, but it is incredibly difficult because of the angle, the gap in the rock in the front. So to even get close to the hole in 1 try was great. This one you gotta kind of go downhill, and it seems like it wants you to kind of like swerve back and forth and zigzag all over the place. But you can ultimately just kind of power it down right into the middle and hit right in front of that first trough there, and you can get it all the way to the bottom and get it pretty close to the hole. There is also a rock, if you don't go too high, that you can bounce off of on the back. Gives you a great angle to go towards the hole. It's very nearly a hole-in-one. This is another one. It looks more simple than it is, but putting uphill like that and getting the correct bank shot is really quite difficult, so I was happy with that one. This one, this is a pop fly on this one. So there's a couple different ways that you can land this after popping it over the rock that can result in you going towards the hole. Mine actually landed out of bounds, but it hit that rock on the outside and went ahead and bounced back in. You can hit that rock, you can hit the rock in the back. There's a couple different options from where you land from the pop-up over there to get at least in the general vicinity of the hole. This is another one that's similar to the last one, where instead of kind of zigzagging back and forth, you're going downhill, so you can just kind of give it the right power and speed, get it through that first gap, and you can actually bounce it over the bottom partition and get down towards the hole in 1 stroke instantly. This is another one. This is a luck shot, trick shot, but you can kind of bounce it down and bounce it off that stone in the back. That is generally going to be your best option. It still doesn't necessarily guarantee placement up on that top platform, but it does get you a little bit closer to the hole. This one, there's a really small gap on the one side, so it's hard to get your ball around and through that gap perfectly. So instead, you can kind of power it into the back and bounce it up over that wall entirely. Sometimes you land out of bounds, but because of the way the snowbank is, it is likely to push you back into bounds towards the hole. And sometimes you can just go straight over that wall right towards the hole. This one, there is a second area down there, where so it kind of wants you to hit it up into that second cup and then up towards the hole, but instead if you give it the right power, you can hit it up out of the first cup, bounce it a couple times, and then get it straight across to where the hole is. So that one's much more fun that way, and it's honestly a pretty consistent trick shot. It's not super hard to do. This one was pretty awesome. So you can kind of bounce it up that ramp and hit it off that back wall that's just at the right angle to get up into the top. Typically you would have to go up into the middle on your first stroke and not really have a good way to get around to that top platform. So it takes 2 strokes to get up there, but if you hit it like this just right off of that back wall, you can get up into that top area in 1 stroke. This is another one they want you to take 2 strokes to kind of get across. Ideally you want to come all the way across and land down into that other part of the half pipe, but you can also end up like I did here, going out of bounds, hitting a rock and a cactus, and bouncing back inbounds. There's another one, looks like you're going to need to zigzag, but in reality what you need to do is just kind of go straight over that first hole, and then kind of bounce it off of the available platform next to the second hole and bring it down towards the cup. You do not need to zigzag back and forth on this one at all. In fact, it's much more difficult in my opinion. So this one here, you got to hit that snowbank just right to get it across. I did actually end up getting a birdie on this one because I went out of bounds the first time. But on the second shot, I got it just angled right towards the hole. If you don't get it towards the hole and you hit it with the power to put it into the hole, you do end up going out the back, so it's a bit of a risky shot. This one makes it seem like you want to go up one ramp and down the next ramp, but in reality, when you hit it, if you hit it when it's up all the way, you can actually ramp it out of the back and bounce it over towards the hole without having to worry about what angle it's going to come down at, and if it's even going to go towards the hole or if it's going to go out of bounds. So it's probably the best approach on hard in my opinion. This is another one playing on hard. As you can see here, rather than kind of taking it gentle, you want to kind of do a similar thing where you're giving it enough power to bounce it over that back wall and bring it down directly into the area the hole's in. This is one you've seen me do in my last trick shot video. That one I bounced on the outside great. This one I bounced off of the light. So there are a couple options here where you can get into that back channel towards the hole. Makes it seem like you're supposed to kind of zigzag around those holes the little meteorites are in, but in my opinion that is not the optimal strategy on this hole, and it's not as consistent. This one is all about the timing to get it through those 2 holes as they're moving and get it over towards the cup. So just timing it out perfectly, bringing it around, and then boom, and you can get right near the cup. There's a big risk of bouncing out. This one I'm going the totally opposite direction you are intended to go. You should actually be hitting it the opposite direction and going all around that big old course. You'll see it when I lift up into the sky. But you're supposed to go all around that big old course, and it's honestly really difficult to get around it in any reasonable amount of strokes, but this way you can bounce it straight out the back and back in towards the hole. This is one where it's all just about the angle. It's a very tight threading to kind of get through there. If you angle it perfectly, you can get through that back hole and go more towards where the hole is. There's a hole in that like kind of picnic table that's leaned up. But even getting that far into it to where you can maybe get it in 2 or 3 is great. This is another one you saw me do in my last video, where I was actually able to land a hole-in-one on it. This one, it's pretty consistent if you bounce it perfectly to at least get over by the cup and end up getting a 2. This is the best option I've found here when playing this one on hard, to try to get it by the hole in a single stroke, and then go ahead and pick up the birdie. Right up and over, just kind of rolls back out on the side you want to be on. And this one, kind of similar thing. This is again on hard, it's on Quixote Valley, so you can go around that outside into that second cup and then back across, but if you give it just the right speed, just the right angle, you can bounce it up over that wall and get it towards the cup in 1 and end up going ahead and picking up a birdie on that second stroke. This one here, there's 2 windmills, so if you get it into that second windmill, I wanted to get it a little further in there so it would have gone more towards the hole. This one pushed it back out, you'll see here, towards the light in the back, which actually left it ending up not going in the hole. You see it kind of pulled too far out as it rolled around the hole. But I'm still super happy with that. Just to get it over by the hole to where you can get it on that second stroke on this one on hard is really quite good. Even on easy, it's difficult to complete this hole in 2 strokes. This one is all about timing. So you don't want to let it roll all the way back towards you or just barely hit it into that ramp as it's going around. You want to give it enough power to not go out the back of the ramp, but to kind of ride in the middle. And then when it kind of comes down, it's going to go right into the hole. Whereas if you're at that front of the ramp as it's going up, it's going to have too much speed. And if you're too far into the ramp, sometimes you can go straight out the back before you even get there. This is another one where you can just kind of blast it down there. And it's all about angle. It's all about your speed and timing. And then we are going to go ahead here and end on a hole-in-one. But it's all just about how you bank it. You would think you want to bank it off the middle, but in reality you don't. You want to bank it on that first one on the far left side, and that is going to give you a much better likelihood of going towards the hole. This is another one that if you hit it too hard, you run a real risk of it going out the back. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps us out a ton. If you want to see more VR content, you want to see us play a different game in VR, we can definitely do that. If you want to see more Walkabout mini golf videos, definitely leave that in the comments below. Drop a like on this video. It tells us you're enjoying it. It definitely helps us to get recommended to other people who may enjoy this content. But thanks so much for sticking around to the end. And remember, when you see those toys and video games off in the distance, even if they're on MetaQuest, it's not a mirage. You guys have a great day.